At the south side of the city, there's a door here, which is listed as Rishemi Home, which was previously locked. That's going to be our first destination. But before we do that, I'm going to buff up. Here we are inside, and there are a couple of people here who look like mages. Apparently, there's a tooltip as you enter with this load screen, is that the males are forbidden to practice magic in Rashomon. So these guys are probably going to be hostile. You can apologize for barging in. And you can ask sort of why they're not just, and you sort of play the idiot. You can use diplomacy to try and avoid this fight. But, yeah, I really don't want to. There's not really much reason to. Then let's make the loudest ruckus we can. Yeah. Nominally, you can sort of avoid this fight, and maybe, you know, I'm acting against alignment or something by picking it, but... between fraps and all the spells being thrown around, the frame rate really suffers. But let's see who we have left. There's a Mordenkainen sword. I'm going to focus on finishing off this Droshan guy. Unfortunately, they've managed to leave me paralyzed and deaf. Fortunately, I think I've taken out enough of them that I'll be able to survive at this point. And fortunately, the paralysis didn't last long. I'll clean up this area and meet you back outside. Most of the loot from that fight is pretty boring. There is this Staff of Valmaxion, which lets you cast a couple spells. It has 50 charges and everything requires 5 charges, except for Fireball, which I'm not going to use. Mostly I picked this up for the Ethereal Visage spell, which I didn't bother to learn. It's rarely useful, but sometimes you want just another defensive spell. The other handy thing there is this Robe of the Archmagi, which gives a bunch of extra spell slots, and it's like a Robe of the Magi, it's just better. It also gives the spell penetration feat. I didn't bother to take the spell penetration feat when I built the character, just because there's so many items that give it. And because I'm a fairly pure caster, which means that I don't have a lot of problems with spell resistance. Our next stop is going to be another house, and it's going to be up on the northern part of town. I sold some stuff off screen and just did some other administrative stuff. We were down here at that Vremuni hideout, and we're now just south of the Temple of Kalambor. This is fairly random, so I'm just going to keep it short. The short version of this conversation is that the witch here wants to recruit the little girl to be a future witch, and the father is sort of on board with that, but the little girl is not interested. And so the witch says, deal with it. And you can talk to the guy and, you know, talk about it. And, you know, apparently she's afraid of being eaten by witches, which, you know, exactly is, you know, not unprecedented. And she has a a friend named Misha, who father claims is imaginary. She disagrees, and we'll talk to her. And you can threaten to eat Misha. I'm actually getting kind of hungry at this point. And that's one way to resolve the conversation. You can also, since I'm a mage, I could have just even a kid and that would have gotten it done, but that's not nearly as fun. Random minor loot in this area that I'll pick up off screen. Back in town, I mentioned that there were 2 graves here that I wasn't going to mess with in Chapter 1. And the reason for that is that when you loot them, you get attacked by, each time you do, there are 2 of them, you get attacked by a spirit. And frankly, they're just kind of convenient things to snack on, so I'm going to just dig one of them up and have a little snack. And explain the whole how Spirit Eater works. So we find this heavy shield. And there's an angry Telthor here. He, uses Berserk, and we'll just sort of... In order to devour a spirit, they have to be weakened. Exactly how weakened, they essentially have to be showing red in their name. So right now he's at dark orange, at badly wounded. The game, I think, says at 25% health. So he's not quite there yet. This is, if you want to get the maximum out of any particular consumption, you get whatever health they have left in addition to just a flat bonus for eating. So now that he's near death, I don't want to bring him down to almost dead. I want him to just barely be at near death. And then I'll use Devour Spirit. And kills him. And I get back to 97 spirit energy, which is handy. Now, these particular ones also give me brilliant spirit essences. Really weak spirits will only give you the volatile spirit essences, and I'm going to try and avoid collecting those just because they're a pain. Spirit essences are used for crafting, but you don't actually need any feats to craft with them. We'll get back to that later once we pick up the feat. I'm not actually going to do anything with them for quite some time. I did the same with the other grave there, and I gained a level. The only sort of significant change there is I picked up the epic spell Vampiric Feast. I'm not gaining another Spirit Shaman level yet. I could actually pick one up at this point and get my level 7 Spirit Shaman spells. I'll probably wait until I can get the level 9 ones. Now that I have Vampiric Feast, I'm going to try this next fight. We'll talk to our little friendly badger and say, "Get away," and Oku threatens offers to scare him away, which doesn't really do much. But it's funny. Sort of, that's not a knife. That's a knife. But he's talking about growls. We're going to finish the Ice Troll Lodge. The Ice Troll Lodge is a Berserker Lodge, and there's a couple things you can do here involving this bath of water and this training dummy and this chest and all that sort of stuff, and I can't actually do any of it. I'm not a barbarian, I don't have a very high constitution, I don't have a lot of hit points, which is what you need to succeed at most of those tests. Actually, there's a guy you can arm wrestle to, and my strength is pathetic, so there's no chance of that happening. Instead, we're going to do something different, but I'm going to give it its own video because it takes a while, and you'll see.